The Daily Derech. We are walking the path of holiness.
Hello, everybody. This is Rabbi Marcus Rubenstein. Welcome to the Daily Derech, a special project of exploring Judaism, the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism, the Rabbinical Assembly, and Temple of Aaron. Today is Erev Shabbat Kodesh, 24th of Av, 5786, corresponding in the secular calendar to Friday, August 7th, 2026. This Shabbat, we will read Parashat Re'ei. Let's begin. Parsha. Today will be our last day on Parashat Re'ei, as it is Erev Shabbat, the day before Shabbat. We will miss you, Parashat Re'ei, but let's do it well today. So, where are we? We're going to do the 7th aliyah today. We're on Deuteronomy chapter 12, verses 26 through 28. The verses go like this. But such sacred and votive donations as you may have shall be taken by you to the site that God will choose. You shall offer your burnt offerings, both the flesh and the blood, on the altar of the eternal your God, and of your other sacrifices. The blood shall be poured out on the altar of the eternal your God, and you shall eat the flesh. Be careful to heed all these commandments that I enjoin upon you. Thus it will go well with you and with your descendants after you forever, for you will be doing what is good and right in the sight of the eternal your God. As you can see, these verses, if you've been listening all week, are sort of a similar thing as before. The idea is then again that the sacrifices, instead of being offered at many different places, they'll be offered specifically at one place that God will choose. And not only one's sacrifices, but one's donations, terumot, maserot, the first fruits, everything like that will be brought to this one location. And we're constantly told about this idea that we're not to eat the blood. We've already talked about this idea already. It's been mentioned in the parsha, but we actually haven't focused on the reason why. Why can't we eat the blood of the animal? And today I found a comment from a great Rishon, a really great commentator on the Torah that's sort of lesser talked about, but should be really part of the pantheon of great medieval commentators, one of the top 5, top 6, but is not in many editions of the Mikra Gedolot, but probably should be a Tosafist. He goes by his title of his commentary is called Bechor Shor, so he's called the Bechor Shor. He's from the 12th century, French Tosafist, and he has a really wonderful commentary. And I think he was really beautiful on this verse 27 here. I'm really answering this question, why is blood forbidden to Jews? And so he answers that exact question. He says, you shall offer your burnt offerings, both the flesh and the blood. The sacrificial fats are included under the term flesh. So when we say both the flesh and the blood, right, these things are actually offered, meaning we're not allowed to eat them, because if they're actually offered on the altar, they're not actually for us, right? They're for God. So the flesh, there are many opportunities where we do actually eat of what we might call the flesh, which is the meat, right? Oftentimes the Kohen gets to eat, or the person offering the sacrifice gets to eat, depending on what the sacrifice is, but never the fats, the forbidden fats, which are a gift unto God, and so too the blood. And now he answers this question about blood. Although I repeatedly warn against eating blood, this is not because blood is something disgusting or repulsive, such that it would be unfit for you to eat. So many people think that the reason why we don't eat blood, because it's just gross, right? What are we, vampires, right? We should not eat blood of animals. Like, there's something just wrong about that. Maybe you have something about it's the life force or something like that, or we can't eat it. It's holy, something like that. But probably it's just gross, right? It's a repulsive thing to eat blood. But that's not the case. That's not actually the reason why we don't eat the blood, according to Bechor Shor. He says, rather, it is not appropriate for you to consume it. Why? Because it has been designated for a higher purpose. Instead, it should come before the one who gave it to serve as atonement for your lives. The idea being that when someone makes a sacrifice, we generally think, okay, the person thinks slaughtered and then burned. But you're missing an essential step. Really, in some ways, the most essential step is the scattering of the blood on the four corners, the four horns of the altar. The altar had horns on each corner of the altar, and so in many sacrifices, the blood is sort of spread out onto the different horns of the altar. And it was believed that actually this blood cleanses the altar and actually purifies the whole entire camp of Israel from their transgressions, which is why you see here that it's an atonement for your lives. I think the symbolism obviously is an animal's blood for your blood, right? It's a sort of an offering of blood so that you don't have to lose your blood, right? So that you can atone for your transgressions in sort of a very sort of gross eye for an eye kind of way, life force for life force. And I think it does have something to do with the fact that it is the life force or the carrier of oxygen. Not that they really knew that, but the carrier of life for all animals. But I think it's important to understand, many people don't understand that is the reason why, that the blood is actually spread on the altar itself. This is an essential part of the sacrifice, and that's what that is supposed to be used for, not for eating, right? So again, the forbidden fats, the blood, can't eat them, and it all draws back. It's amazing how these laws, why we soak and salt meat today, and we don't eat, so that we don't eat the blood, and we go through all this trouble not to eat blood, although most of it's done for us already by the producers of the meat and the processors. A lot more of this used to be done in home, but it's all relates back to how these animals used to be sacrificed. That's why in his second comment he says on V'dam zivecha yishvauch, the blood of your sacrifice shall be poured out. From this we learn that it's forbidden to eat the meat of a sacrifice until after the blood has been dashed upon the altar. Why? Because the sacrifice is not finished until the blood is actually scattered on the altar. Right? If this hasn't been done, then it's almost like it's not even a sacrifice in the first place. So I think we can see from this comment from the Bechor Shor, and what he's saying here is how essential the scattering of the blood is, and how important it is in the process of a sacrifice. Mishnah Torah. We'll continue on learning the Mishnah Torah on Hilchot Tefilah, the laws of prayer. Today we're on the 4th chapter. We'll learn the 10th halacha. We've started to go through this list of the 5 things that prevent a person from praying, even if it's the appropriate time. We listed in yesterday's previous episode 5 different things that prevent us from praying at that moment. So very important. We're going to skip the first 2 things. Why? Well, we talked about a lot of them, right? I don't want to get into the whole thing with poop again and distancing oneself from poop and urine and bad smells like that. I think we did enough of that with the Shema. And basically all of these laws are the same in at least the first 2 with the Shema. So in previous episodes, when we went through Kriyat Shema, we went through, how far away do you have to be away from excrement or a bad smell? And that part was a little smelly, so we're not going to do that part again. So let's go on to something that's later in that list, which is things that might bother and distract a person from prayer. All right. So remember that one of the rules was that one cannot be bothered or distracted at the time so they can fully focus. What is implied? One who must relieve himself should not pray. Okay, this might sound, I'm sorry, I said we were going to go past the poop and pee, but just a little bit more, because I think this is actually an important halacha that we have to pay attention to, right? It's important that someone goes to the bathroom before they go to the prayer service, right? He continues, whenever anyone who must relieve himself prays, his prayer is an abomination, and he must pray again after he relieves himself. The idea is that if you have like poop or pee that's in your body waiting to come out, and the whole time all you can think about is the fact that you have to go to the bathroom, and it's interruptive to your praying, the fact that like having to go to the bathroom is mixing with reaching out to Hashem and being in this spiritual place is an abomination. Those 2 things, as we know, should very clearly need to be separate, right? Going to the bathroom, poop and pee, urine, excrement, and God should be very, very separate. So for that reason, it's very important to pay attention before prayer to see if you have to go to the bathroom. But the question, of course, is how long, right? If you think about it, right? Oh, okay, maybe I feel something. Maybe I have to go to the bathroom, something like that. But at least when you begin, before you pray, you should try to examine yourself and to see if you need to go to the bathroom. Now, it's important to know that it's not all needs to go to the bathroom are important this way, but there's actually a measurement. There's a limit according to the Rambam, as discussed in the Talmud. If a person can restrain himself for the length of time that it takes to walk a parsah, his prayer is considered prayer. Right? So very important, right? The parsah is an old measurement, a biblical measurement. I'm sorry, not a biblical measurement. It's a Talmudic measurement. This is usually the way things are. This is the way things are mentioned often in the Talmud in terms of length of time, is how long it takes to walk something. So how long is a parsah? Very, very important. According to our understanding of how long a parsah is, it's about 4 miles. Okay. Or 4 meals. A meal is about, I'm sorry, not miles, 4 meals, which is about 2,000 amot or 2,000 cubit. So therefore, a parsah is 8,000 amot. 8,000 amot in probably is about 4 kilometers, so about 2.5 miles. And then it takes usually, in terms of walking time, usually it's about 18 minutes a meal. Usually it takes. So, usually in terms of 1 parsah, if a 1 parsah is 4 meal, then 1 parsah together would be 72 minutes of walking. So therefore, so what Rambam is saying is, if you have to go to the bathroom when you begin to pray, if you feel like you have to go to the bathroom within at least 72 minutes, which is about an hour and 12 minutes, right, from when you begin praying, your prayer is actually not accepted after the fact, right? It's like you haven't even prayed, right? Nevertheless, a priority, la tchila, as he would say, from the outset, one should not pray until he has checked himself very well, checked his intestines, rid himself of phlegm and mucus and any other bothersome thing, and only afterwards should he pray. So what Rambam is saying, actually, it's very strict, right? If you have to go to the bathroom within an hour and 12 minutes of beginning to pray, whatever you pray after that in your Amidah is not actually accepted. And so, obviously from the outset, if you feel absolutely anything and there's any doubt, you should just go to the bathroom. Anyway, just go to the bathroom, right? Very, very important. Sometimes this might mean missing Zman Tefilah with the congregation, right? It might mean that you don't get to pray with the congregation, which is also an important value. But again, even if you pray with the congregation and you're able to, but you have to go to the bathroom at that time, you have to understand that mitzvah will not even count, right? So the quality doesn't matter if it doesn't get to count at all, right? So always the priority should be on going to the bathroom before you need to pray, even if that means that you don't get to pray the Amidah with the community or you're behind in prayer. Go to the bathroom. It's usually seen as something that's very, very good seen as very good, a good practice within Torah and Judaism. They cared a lot about this. Menorat HaMaor. Let's continue learning that wonderful text, Menorat HaMaor, and we're still talking about the dangers of speech and how we have to be careful about the way in which we speak to each other. All right, so we talked yesterday about the sort of pietistic practice of how we should limit our idle conversation and really only use our words for Torah, for things that are essential for our bodies, and to really try to not speak anything extra. That this was a very pious practice, not for everybody, but it was a pious practice, an ideal practice. And the Menorat HaMaor continues on from there. When the early sages saw how weak human judgment is, and that the tongue, which was created to speak words of wisdom and understanding, not only utters idle and meaningless speech, but is even open to speaking forbidden words, and despite the fact that it is soft and enclosed behind 2 protective barriers, people nevertheless sharpen it like a keen arrow and use it to speak arrogantly and destructively. They rebuked this behavior. So I actually really appreciate this, because there's a lot of there's a lot of great things that's done with bodily imagery here, right? The tongue is so soft; it's soft and gentle. It shouldn't be so dangerous, but people harden it and make it like an arrow, like a weapon. And it's so interesting, because I think what that is telling us is naturally the way God designed the tongue and speaking in general, obviously the tongue being a symbol for speaking, is that it shouldn't be so dangerous. It's not supposed to be such a dangerous thing, but it's us, human beings, who make the choice to sharpen it, to make it a weapon of war, to hurt other people. That's something that we choose to do, and we change the way the tongue is supposed to exist. But God obviously understood the potential for danger. It's why God enclosed it within two protective barriers, right? So what is the protective barriers? Are your teeth, right, when they close over the tongue, and your mouth, right? So it's I love that the way that the rabbis, the Menorat HaMaor, is looking at here at the teeth and the mouth as sort of protective barriers or fences around the tongue. But I actually think this is really useful. Sometimes you might really want to say something, and you could just focus on closing that fence up, like close the fence, right? Close the teeth and the mouth so that you can't speak. Sometimes that's actually helpful to have like a really physical reminder and a symbol of, how dangerous this could be, that it looks so playful, it looks so gentle, the tongue, but it needs these very forceful gates to make sure that we don't sharpen it and use it to destroy other people and hurt other people. And so therefore the rabbis rebuke this behavior. And how do they do it? Well, let's find out. So in the Gemara in Tractate Archin in 15b, it's a tractate of the Talmud here, Rabbi Yochanan said in the name of Rabbi Yossi ben Zimra, what is the meaning of the verse? This is Psalms 123. What shall he give you, and what more shall he do for you, O deceitful tongue? Well, the Holy One, blessed be he, said to the tongue, and this is a wonderful agadata of sort of the way the rabbis imagine God speaking to the tongue at this point. All of a person's limbs stand upright, but you lie horizontally, right? You tongue, you're a shifty fellow, right? Everyone else stands up like normally, but you lie horizontal. You're not to be trusted here. You're not very upright. All of a person's limbs are on the outside, but you are hidden within, right? Most people, the limbs of their body, right, are on the outside, right? But the tongue is hidden behind those two fences, right? It's hidden away. And not only that, I have surrounded you with two walls, one of bone and one of flesh. Of course, this is the teeth and the mouth that the Menorat HaMaor was referring to. He's just now showing really the source where he got this teaching from. Yet despite all this, what shall he give you? What more shall he do for you, O deceitful tongue? Meaning the Psalms 123 is like God saying, like, I've done so much to protect and make sure that you tongue don't hurt anyone, that a human being doesn't use the tongue as a weapon to hurt other people. Yet, look, you humans, you keep using that tongue to hurt people. And I think this is important. I mean, obviously it's playful. It should make you smile. It's a beautiful sort of personification of God. But those symbols are important. Remember that the tongue lies horizontal, that the tongue is behind two walls. Remember that the tongue is hidden within the mouth, right? It should stay there, right? And we should understand that this is a powerful weapon. It's not bad in itself, but it can be used for evil if we so choose to do that. And so we as human beings, all the more so, need to be very careful with how we use our tongue and how we speak. And these should be good reminders that make you smile, but good reminders of that kind of thing. And also, of course, the wisdom of God, of the way how God built the body to teach us our values in so many beautiful ways. Well, that's it for today, everybody. Thank you so much for listening to the Daily Derech. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please feel free to email me anytime at rmr@templeofaaron.org. Thank you so much for listening. There are so many people to thank, and you can look in the show notes for that. And also, if you want to know and see any of these texts in the original, we actually have that too. You can actually find that in our episode description. So look in each of the episode descriptions, and you'll find that information right there. Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody.